Hi guys, what's up? This is going to be my review of Heaven or Hell by Slaves Wage. Now I want to separate this into 4 different categories. The first being about the history of the band, the second being about the writing process, the third being about the influences and everything else about the band, and the fourth thing being the ratings. So with that out of the way, let's get into the history of the band. The members of the band are Xavier Sierra on bass, Pedro Cortez on drums, James Johnson on lead guitar, and Jeff Sands on rhythm guitar and vocals. Slaves Wage began with Jeff Sands in 1996 in Temple, Texas, USA, as a group Monastic Extroverts, then later as Soul Slave. Jeff Sands was a guitarist and vocalist, Eric Aguilan was a drummer, and Clint McCoy was a bassist. From 1996 to 2000, many musical artists came and went. In 2000, Jeff moved to Arlington, Texas to find more like-hearted and like-minded musicians to make music with. He found James Johnson, who is still a part of the journey today, 20 years later. Jeff and James became a temporary part of a Christian rock band called Deacon Chuck. In 2003, they worked with Trevor Lang and supplied guitars on one of his industrial metal projects titled Lang. It was a dual project for these three. Lang's project came to a screeching halt in 2004, and that's when James and Jeff decided to do something on their own. In 2006, Slaves Wage came out with a 4-song, self-titled EP. Jeff was on the bass, MIDI drums, rhythm guitars, and vocals. James was on the lead guitars. A few other musicians contributed to the MIDI drums as well. In 2010, Slaves Wage came out with a 6-song EP titled Faith Says. They used the same process in this EP as they did the first self-titled one. After Faith Says, they rounded out the band's lineup with Tony Fernandez as a bassist and Pedro Cortez as a drummer. There was a series of musicians who entered and exited at this time. At this time, they played anywhere they could get an invitation to play a show. In 2015, Slaves Wage made their 10-song full-length release, Wisdom's Call. Wisdom's Call was recorded in Savior Sound Studios in Arlington, Texas. Engineer Steve Gauthier produced the album. They continued to play shows wherever they could. In 2020, they came out with Heaven or Hell. This was recorded at Nomad Studios, a well-known record facility in Dallas, Texas. Engineers Russell Howler and Gary Wong were the producers of Heaven or Hell. Xavier Sierra joined the band shortly after Heaven or Hell. At this time, they partnered with Sacrosanct Records from Michigan, with a host of new musical opportunities looming on the horizon. Now let's get into the writing process. They spent 2016 to 2018 writing the songs that were going to be on the album. They spent the first 2/3 of 2019 just fine-tuning the songs to get them ready for recording, and the last 1/3 of the year recording and getting together other aspects of the project before they release the album. Most of the band members are married and they all have full-time jobs. They have 1 4-hour rehearsal per week, so the approach to songwriting is very scheduled in nature. Jeff says they hold themselves to a strict amount of time that they devote themselves to write each song before they move on to the next one, which is around 3 months. Jeff said, "When we approach the songwriting process for a new album, we usually begin by collecting all the musical ideas that the band members have come up with and would like to present for consideration." He continues, "We record and save them, and then we decide which idea we would like to work on first." He adds, "In the course of a 3-month period, that will turn into one of the songs that will be on the new project. Some ideas work into a song format. Many ideas are used and many ideas are not." Jeff says, "Some of the ideas or variations of them will become the main musical ideas of songs, while other ideas will be used as parts of songs." He continues, Throughout this process, other ideas will be presented that weren't part of the original pool of ideas. He adds, all band members have a say in the songwriting process until a consensus is reached and a new song is born. Jeff does the lyrical writing, but there have been infrequent times when someone will present a lyrical idea or theme that ends up being used in a song. Jeff says, our bass player at the time, Tony Fernandez, had the idea of writing a song that had to do with the topic of wisdom as presented in the Bible. He continues, this idea turned into what are the lyrics for Wisdom's Call and ultimately the title of that particular album. Now let's get into the influences and all the other relevant information. Slaves Rage has a broad range of influences which is due not only to their individual tastes as musicians, but also their individual ages. Two of the members are in their 50s, one in their 30s, and one in their 20s. Xavier, the youngest member and bassist influences are Radiohead, Metallica, and System of a Down. Pedro, the drummer, is influenced by prog metal bands such as Dream Theater, Symphony X, and Petra, among others. Jeff and James are older members of the band, and a lot of their influences come from an earlier time. James was influenced by bands such as Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Dokken, and he is currently enjoying listening to prog metal bands like Dream Theater thanks to Pedro, the drummer. Jeff's influences are Black Sabbath and older solo Ozzy material, Metallica, and Stryper being an honorable mention. As far as touring is concerned, Jeff says, we basically play whenever we can get our foot in the door, at bars, clubs, church events, civic events, Christian or secular festivals, etc. Before COVID, they were looking forward to playing one or two festivals out of state that the record label had set up, but plans changed. They look forward to picking up in 2021 where they left off in 2020 in regards to playing shows. Jeff wants to give a big shout out to Tony Padilla and Sacrosanct Records for working with them and allowing the band to be a part of the record label. In terms of why making this album, the purpose of making this or any album that they've completed, Jeff says, is found in the band's vision statement, which is to be excellent musically and ministerially as we seek to take the gospel of Jesus Christ in uncompromising yet relevant ways into the secular arena as well as the Christian arena for the purpose of seeing salvation, deliverance, and healing come to all people as we exalt the name and work of Jesus Christ and present biblical truth. Jeff says, we try our very best to make each song we write something that we can be proud of, both musically and lyrically. So no favorite songs. There are several guest vocals on the album. Most noteworthy, Xavier, as he did guest vocals for the band before officially joining as their bassist. They also brought in some people for dirty vocals. The anticipated release date for the next album is December 2023, with the first song already written for that project. Now let's get into the categories, shall we? Now first off, I want to say this is a very solid release. None of these categories are bad at all, actually. They're all above average. Why I say that is that I always felt like this was a solid album. Every time I went to go listen to it, I found things about it that I really liked. Now, this is not the best album that I've ever heard, but it definitely has some things about it that are pretty good. It's also solid because there's not really a whole lot of weaknesses in this album. It's just really quality, and you can tell that they put a lot of time and effort into crafting these songs. There's also some parts in the songs that are pleasantly surprising in terms of which direction they decided to go with it. You think you have it down, and then all of a sudden they do something a little bit more interesting, and that's really cool to see. For the rhythm and light of the notes, the rhythm of sounds is melodic, warm, and alluring. How the lyrics go along with the music is magical, symphonic, and nostalgic. The lyrics are accompanying and enjoyable. The heavier lightness is average. The rhythm in a general sense is paced and melodic. Total for this is 2.1 out of 2.5. For the notes and light of the depth, the progression or climaxing is satisfying and right in line with the genre. The complexity is soulful and attuned. The composition is predictably surprising, and the atmosphere is give or take. The notes in a general sense are bright and clear. Total for this is going to be 2 out of 2.5. For the depth in terms of the listenability, the synergy is orchestral and meticulous. The noise and sounds are nothing out of the ordinary. The production, whether tasteful or not, is pleasing. The genre, whether defining or original, is give or take. And the depth in terms of the notes is practice and renaissance. Total for this is going to be 1.7 out of 2.5. For the listenability in terms of the rhythm, the flow from one song to the next is perfectly proficient. The speed is clear, the predictability is smooth, polished, and enjoyable. The groove is vibrant and slightly surprising, and the listenability in a general sense is perfectly appealing. Total for this is going to be 2.2 out of 2.5. Well, there you go, guys. That's going to be it for this. Total for this is going to be 8 out of 10. Solid release. I recommend you picking this up. If you like older metal, if you like classic metal, you're really going to love this. Well, guys, that was my review for Heaven or Hell by Slave's Wage. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later. Bye.